preacher's kid for the first 12 years of my life. Some of those things he didn't say. And but I have experience in my family with caring for children that are vulnerable through foster care and adoption. And at this stage in my life, this phase, I want to do something to help families. So that's why I'm very happy and privileged to work with AGAPE. Is there familiarity with AGAPE? I mean, you guys have been awesome, right? You guys have been awesome, right? Just for the many years that you have supported and funded AGAPE, but I suspect that the support of AGAPE is older than some of the ones in this class, just looking at some of the faces, which is great. And so I'd like to share a little bit about AGAPE, but I'll begin first in the class with just a real brief reference to a very familiar scripture that's related to caring for children. It's James 1:27. Does that surprise you if you're familiar with the scripture? Right? Was there a sermon recently on that? Last Sunday. So I don't know what was said last Sunday, so I'm sure it was great. But one thing about that phrase, right, in that verse is, to keep oneself unstained from the world is true religion. And to, depending on your version, visit or care for or attend to orphans and widows, right? And those two phrases are metaphors, not become stained with the world. The world stained is like a reference to your clothing, so it's like a metaphor. And then to care for those who are orphans and widows is a very specific reference to folks that are vulnerable in our society. But it's also a metaphor that's a very common metaphor for Jews, which is who James is written to, Christian Jews mostly. And it's a metaphor of caring for those that are vulnerable, caring for those that are outcast, caring for those that don't have a family that actually can help take care of them. So the church, our calling, did you know that? Our calling is to care for those who are vulnerable. Now, that probably was in the sermon last week, and I wasn't here. But that's what our calling is, right? And I'm just so happy to be able to help with AGAPE. One of our roles is to help families and churches look after, care for, nurture, share the love of the Lord with vulnerable children. Now, there are other vulnerable people in this society that you may be helping as an individual, as a family, but there is certainly a need for children. And so I just want to share about that with you, and thank you so much for what you do. It's so exciting to our team when we heard about your service last Sunday and your giving and the heart that demonstrates for your church. It's just wonderful. So I need is there a clicker? Brother, is there a clicker? I don't see it. Is it up here? So just to say a little bit about who AGAPE is. Yeah, there's the screen. We've been in existence since 1982. Tom and Joan came from Tennessee to the Friendly Avenue Church in Greensboro, and they were already in the care of foster children or the care of children, and they wanted to start an agency to work with churches and Christians in North Carolina in 1982, and they began that agency. And the initial years of AGAPE, both because of the culture and because of the focus of those initial years, was children who were born to mothers who were not going to keep their children. And the initial focus of our service or the agency service was those children, we want them to grow up in Christian homes and experience the love of the Lord. And so for the first 10 to 20 years, the focus was having relationships with hospitals and social services with mothers who were not going to keep their babies, and then our families who we supported would take care of those families and often adopt them. Our culture's changed since 1980 and 1990, and that may be one thing you know or don't know about a little bit about what AGAPE does. And part of the changes of our culture is for more than one reason, but the result of the culture is that there are less mothers who are willing for their baby to be raised by somebody else, even if they're in dire circumstances, even if they're young or dire circumstances. There are less mothers who have that propensity in our culture. More mothers keep their children. And the other thing that's happened is foster care. There are a lot of children that are not in a loving home. And so what we do, our focus is what we do now is a foster care. We're a foster care agency. We're licensed. We're legal. We can train families to care for children through foster care. And we are also licensed and can carry out an adoption from those who have fostered or care for children in foster care. We can support that family through adoption and after. And that's our primary service. And I'll just give you a little statistic. If this is a statistic, there's a national group that collects statistics for every state every 2 years. So I'm anxious to see what it is for 2025. But here, it started in 2019. And generally in the state of North Carolina, there are 10,000 children that are in foster care. And by definition, what that means is that the state has determined, departments of social services by county have determined that these children are not in a safe or nurturing environment. And we need to, at least for a temporary basis, help the family become more nurturing and functional and put the children in a safer place. And that's a legal custody determined by our legal system. The state actually takes custody of the child. And when they take custody of the child, they're looking to place that child for some length of time with a home that will take care of the child and nurture it in a loving way. So that's what foster care is. Right now, there are about 11,000 children in the state who are in foster care under the custody of the state. Now, if you look at the other line up here on the slide, you'll see that also right now, there's about 6,000. This slide says 5,623. But there's about 6,000 families who are willing and licensed and trained to do foster care. Now, it doesn't take a scientist to do that math. 10,000 children, 6,000 families. Let's just say, in a round number, there are about 4,000 children in the state that are currently not under the care of a family. Let that sink in. 4,000. So that's a bit of a crisis. And AGAPE, what we want to do is we want to help work with families, find families who are curious about taking care of children, help them make these decisions to take care of children, support them in the process of taking care of these children, and share the love of the Lord with these children. And but we don't do it. AGAPE doesn't do that. We don't actually take care of children. You follow what I'm saying? We support families to take care of children. And we have an expertise with that, and we're also licensed for that. And we're very intentional. Yeah, that's the word. We're very intentional that we find and support families that are Christian, that believe in the Lord, and we're very intentional in the fit so that families have different situations in their lives and in their counties and in their ages. And so we're very intentional. Well, what children or what ages of children or what situations of children or what locations of children would best fit between these families and the children that we're asked to take care of. Of those 4,000 children, what typically happens with them is there's a relative that's not formally licensed with foster care, but steps in and says, well, I'll take care of them for a little while. Or they're in a dormitory type style living setting. In Wake County, there's a building in the downtown that has a couple of floors. It's an office building that's set up like a dormitory. In today's culture, we don't call them children's homes or orphanages. but that's what they used to be, with dedicated families to take care of the children. Today, it's more like a dormitory style, and social workers rotate or take turns looking after the children in those dormitory style settings. That's where the children are. So, let's see. So I gave you a little bit of description of what we do, but these are the bullets if you want to read them while I talk. But I'd like to say that middle one. What happens with social services? We have great relationships with social services. AGAPE now has social workers in Wake County, Mecklenburg County, Guilford County, Catawba County, Forsyth County that are part of our staff. If you listened, we don't have a social worker from Raleigh East in the state. And we're really looking for social workers. So let me go back. I flipped too quick. This is some of our, let's call it, statistics. In December of last year, we were supporting 43. I think it says, yeah, we were supporting 43. So we were licensed, and we were supporting 43 families, Christian families, who are licensed to take care of children. That's a substantial growth for our agency. Just 4 years ago, we were less than 20. And the growth has continued. You'll see in August, we had 51 families we were supporting. Today, we're actually supporting 48. We have 18 in training. That's a great number. That's the most we've ever had in training in the year of our agency. And our request, and my request as I come and speak with you now and talk to this wonderful church family, is if you're interested, if you're a family that's interested, this mic is going in and out. Can you hear me okay? If you're a family that's interested in caring for children that are vulnerable for some period of time, you don't have to adopt. Even if you just want to care for children in a period of time, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. If you want to care for a child in a vulnerable situation that has already had to face the trauma of being taken away from their mother, we need more families. You just saw the crisis, right? We need more families. And associated with that, we need more social workers. So if you are curious and would like to do some work part-time or full-time as a social worker with AGAPE, I don't know you, but please speak with me. If you know someone who is a social worker or a counselor of some relation or some degree or some training and would like to support families who are taking care of children, let me know. We need families. I've said it three times. I might say it 4 or 5. We need social work families, and we need families to care for children. Your contribution last Sunday and some contributions of other Christians are going to help us to be able to hire and properly support our social workers. That is our front line. Great, I see your question. That is our front line, and we need more. And so that we're actually in a good state financially for our staff for another year. So funds we're collecting are moving towards growth. We want to find social workers. Have I said it now about 5 times? And we want to find families who are willing to care for children. So this is a question and answer. So, brother, you want to ask your question?
Yeah, really. Can you, I'm trying to think of like our context. So can you like define that a little bit when you say we're leading families? From the standpoint of like our context, we've got families that are maybe transitional because of the military. Or
Yes.
Kids are now like grown and out of the house, and so they're maybe like approaching retirement or retired. Like what does that look like for you guys? Or maybe even like a single parent home. What does that look like for you guys?
That was a great question. And lead into something that would be great to share. The basic question is what does a family who cares for foster children look like? That was what I hear in a general basic of your question. And our perception is that the families that are in the child rearing years, let's call it from age 20 to age 35 or 40, those are the families that can care for foster care children. And certainly they are, but that's not all. Some of our best foster care families are folks that are in their 50s and 60s. We have a single mother now that we support. Over the last few years, she has now cared for 17 foster care children in her home. She's not adopted any. She's single and she's in their 60s. If you're a single mother, you can be a family to take care of children. If you're in your 60s or 50s, you can be a family to care for children. Now, I've said that twice, hoping that that's caught. It doesn't have to be the younger folk, right? If you have resources and ability, if you just want to do something to help, another answer to the question is, there's foster care, which is a request. Would you take care of this child for some predicted amount of time? Sometimes that's 3 months, 6 months, or a year, depending what happens. There is what we also call respite care. And families who are licensed for respite care take care of a child for a very short period of time during a transitional period for that child. And that could be 24 hours or 3 days, but it's a short period of time. We're looking for families to do both of those. And the respite care folks, from our perspective, the folks that we support that do respite care, they're not only responding to a social services request to take care of children in a short period of time, we use them as well, and I say use them, they want to be used to care for children who are with our foster care families and give them a Saturday break or a weekend break. And they're licensed and trained from the state's perspective so they can do that. And so we want to find and support families to do respite care and to do foster care. Now, what we don't do as an agency, because you may hear about this, there is a category called therapeutic foster care, which is for foster care that with children with known challenges, disabilities, or mental challenges. That we do not do therapeutic foster care. There are great agencies that do, but that's not what AGAPE does. Okay? If you want to adopt, there are agencies that will just help you adopt. Our focus is foster care. Some agencies, and if you're interested in just going right to adoption, we can point you to some agencies, good agencies that just want to adopt. One thing to know about that is if you go to an agency that wants to adopt, that costs money. It's interesting that if you want to go straight to adoption, the cost in the state now is somewhere between $15,000 and $30,000 to adopt a child. If you foster a child and then choose to adopt that child, little cost. Hardly any cost. And that's just the way the system works. 75% of the families that we support in foster care adopt. It's not often right away. Sometimes it happens 3 or 4 years after doing foster care, but eventually those families adopt. So that's just an honest statistic. You heard about 30% don't. All they do is foster care. Other questions? Yes.
You guys have legal custody?
Who has legal custody?
Yeah, do you have it where once they're in a foster care, the foster parents can do legal custody?
Great question.
Come away from the state?
Great question.
Still get aid, but
Great question. The question is, does the foster family have legal custody? Or I will say, who has legal custody? And the simple and straight answer is, the state has legal custody. And I'll add to that a little bit, okay? So the state has legal custody. Once a child is determined legally to be in foster care, the state has taken custody of that child. And so AGAPE, as a team of social workers, we partner with the social services social worker to provide guidance and support for these families, because they're the ones that provide the real care, and they're the ones that provide the day-to-day situations. But there is a realization, and brother, and I saw your hand, so I'll see if there's another question, but there is a realization that sometimes the state will make a decision about a child that we don't have control of because they have the custody. We're licensed, and we're licensed to train, so the state's very satisfied, and to give you the informal The counties that we have social workers in, our relationship with social services is tremendous. They come to us for advice. They call us because they know our families have a quality care. They have a lot of confidence, and we want to keep that confidence. We're very careful to keep that confidence. And so that's what happens in reality. There's a lot of confidence with our social workers and the support we do. So in other words, most social workers with the department, the DSS, they're overworked. You just saw the crisis, right? They're overworked, and there's a high turnover of those social workers, both. And so they don't have time. If you call up they're great people, but if you call up someone from the DSS at 7 p.m. at night and said, this child's, throwing mud on the wall and I don't know what to do. I don't know why that's happening. Can you give me some guidance? You won't be able to find your county social worker at 7 o'clock at night, but you know who you will find? AGAPE social worker. Our social worker hold the hand of our families. When they go to meet and have visits with the birth parent, we go with them. In fact, one of our goals for AGAPE is to reach out in the name of the Lord to that birth parent and to help the birth family become more functional, because that's the greatest and best situation for a foster child and a family. And that's our aim as best as possible. Did you have another question? I got to talking. I can get to talking a lot.
Legal guardianship, when they come out of the foster care and how the
Yes.
foster parents now have full custody.
So there is I'm not as familiar with guardianship, but there are two. You can adopt or you can be a guardian, which is not a full adoption. And that gives you some legal rights as a guardian. I'm not as familiar with it, and sounds like you might be, as familiar of it as with those two differences. But guardianship is one of the things that we can transition to for foster children. Most of the time, my experience is limited, by the way, a year with AGAPE formally, a year and a half informally. But my experience is the guardianship is a move towards older children, or is a transition for older children. You can imagine that anecdotally, it's the older a child is, the harder it is to find we call it a forever family for that child. That's what happens. A lot of those 4,000 children are children that are 8 and older. That's just what happens, yes.
You just partially answered one of my questions. Age limits.
Age limits.
Yeah. What are the age limits, and in your experience, where do those age limits fall?
Okay. The question is about age limits with foster children, and where the ages or numbers fall. So I started to answer. You're right. I started to answer that question. Foster care can begin at birth through age 18. At age 18, a child is an adult, and they are formally released from foster care. Now, there's a transition period between age 17 to age 19, sometimes with families, and they'll stay with the family. But in that transition period, a child will move out of foster care, technically, legally. And you heard me say, most of the children that are not cared for are in the older half of that bracket.
The other question was concerning the cost factor. Does the state support AGAPE in
Great question.
assistance
The
in the foster care?
The question is, does the state support, I'll answer it this way. What assistance does AGAPE get, and what assistance do our families get? Okay? So in the state of North Carolina, there is a monthly stipend for a family who cares for a child. It's about $800 per child. It varies a little bit on the county, but it's really close to $800 a month per child the state provides to the family. The state also provides a stipend, a monthly stipend to AGAPE, to an agency like us, for families that we support and have under our umbrella of support. We get a monthly stipend as well. And I actually don't know what that stipend is, but I can tell you the total. And you can find this on our website. That the last 4 or 5 years, about 70% of our funding, our revenue, came from the state. and about 30% came from Christians and churches. Last year, it was 60-40. 60% the state, because we're growing, and the churches and Christians who support us are growing. And so it was 60%, it was actually 44 and 56, but I round it. 60% the state, 40% Christians and churches. It is a strategic intent of ours to switch that, to be more supportive by Christians and churches and less supported by government. And I'll use that to say, we believe very plainly that the effort and the work and the love that goes with caring for these children is from the church. It's not from AGAPE. It is the church's role. It is our role as Christians, as brothers and sisters, right, who've been taken out of our bad situations and given and put in by the grace of God into His family. That's what we all are. When we were born again through baptism, we're in His family. And so we have that calling. And I'm privileged to work with a team who has expertise that can help the church, help y'all, the more you want to do this, and help families to do what I call the calling of the Lord. Take care of those who are vulnerable. Did I say that well enough? Any questions about that? And so we'd like to flip it. We'd like the church to have more ownership in every way. And on the other side, we are careful. We don't take funding from grants of associations or things like that because they can influence what we do. We just take money from the government. And even then, we're careful to make sure we do what we wish to do. And we're very plain on our website, in our relational aspects with social services. We're a Christian, godly organization. And that's who we support. We're very plain about it, yes.
I'm sorry, I need you to go back.
Yes, ma'am.
You were saying that you do not do adoptions anymore?
We will.
Unless it's been a foster
That's right.
situation.
That's
Then you
right.
do it.
We're not set up for the process with attorneys and fees to go straight to adoption without foster care.
So,
But we will do adoptions after caring for a child in foster care or through that process.
okay, so if somebody has a baby and they wish to place that baby for adoption, then we don't do that, or you don't do that.
If the mother wants to go straight to adoption, I'm hesitant to say this because it actually doesn't usually happen that way. They usually go to foster care first and then adoption, and then we can do it. But if a mother wants to go straight to adoption, we don't have the staff to do that. Okay?
What are we doing to increase the church as a whole in the state? What are we doing to increase our percentage?
That's part of my job. Part of my job is to inform churches and inform ministers, have conversations with elders, have meetings with elders across the state to grow the understanding, because I do believe the church has the resources. I really do. It's a matter of, does the church feel the calling to take care of these particular vulnerable people? And they're people, they're not just children, they're people. And are there families that have that calling in our churches? Because I'm telling you, I see churches, I visit churches now regularly. I have a relationship with about 20 churches of Christ across the state. And that's growing. And I'm running out of time to be able to develop those relationships. So in the back of my mind, as I visit churches, I'm listening to see if there's somebody else that can do this with me, to be honest with you. Because it's growing. So does that help answer your question? And I have relationships with the Boone Church of Christ, all the way to Pine Valley in Wilmington. And, I'm beginning to have connection here with this church on a personal basis, though y'all have had a relationship with AGAPE for a long time.
So you're spending a lot of your time
I am.
on that road.
I
You're
am.
spending a lot of your time in that road.
I am. That's what I've been doing for a year, formally. I was in construction. You heard the introduction, for about 25 years. I've also been a minister on staff. I have a master's degree in counseling. And I've done lots of different things. In the 5th grade, I was crawling under houses and doing rough carpentry, and I still do rough carpentry for fun. And so that's just, I don't play golf or stuff like that. So that's what I do. And in this phase of my life, I do this almost all the time. I have 2 other obligations. I work with our church. I teach all the time, and we're having to expand our facility. And because of my construction, I'm a part of that. And so I have that job, and I have my family. Every family's got challenges, and my family has challenges, right? So I'm doing this as much time as I can.
Is there anybody else on the staff doing that as well?
So Joe Hall can do it less than he was previously. I don't know if Joe was visited here or not, but he lives in Catawba County or Hickory, and goes to the Hickory Church, and he still does some of this, though his family situation is less than he used to do. And besides that, our staff does it as we can, right? So I didn't show this picture yet. That's a picture of the staff. I'm the token old person in the staff. And
Is Nicole there?
Nicole she is not in this photo. Nicole and I work closely together, actually. She cannot work full time, but she works with me closely because she has the long-standing relationship with churches, right? And I don't know you, but you know who Nicole is, obviously. Nicole is the daughter of Tom and Joan, and it's the one they adopted in the early years in the 80s. And so Nicole is now married to Jeff, and they have children, and she works for AGAPE, which I'll use that to say, with this staff, every one of us have a heart, I mean a real deep heart, for caring for vulnerable children. Of our staff, we have 12 staff. There are 4 that are full-time. I am formally paid 5 hours a week. I work a lot more than that because we love it. And we have this calling. We have an experience in our lives that makes us want to do this. Our executive director, Kimberly, she has about 3 or 4 of those little letters after her name in social work. She's very good. She's very experienced at it. Her 3 children are grown and off on their own. She takes care of 2 children. She and her husband, Maurice, now take care of 2 children. She's a member of the Southside Church of Christ in Durham, and they have 2 children. One is 4, Connor, and Olivia is 7. And she's taking care of those children. She can't help it. It's just in us, right? And that's who we want to find. We want to find, young or old, social workers that they have this heart that want to look after these children. And so that's what we're asking for. I can name somebody. The fellow right there, the young fellow at the top, Keith, and that's his wife, Tanya. They're on the back. They have 6 children. 2 are biological. 4 are adopted. Her mother looks at her and tells her, "You're crazy." And she says, "This is the life I want to live." And my experience is so far, and the limited experience of this, the younger families that have this heart that want to do foster care, they already have children a lot of times. Probably half and half. They already have children, but they love children. And so I'm going to use that to say one other thing. If there's a family here, what's my time limit? 10 o'clock. 10 minutes. If there's a family in the church here that wants to do foster care, will you all wrap your arms around them? And can you tell I'm asking sincerely? Will you help them out, right? If they need help with supplies, or if they need a break, or if they need somebody to help them take their child to class because they've got 2 other children, they're trying to do this, and they need help with that child, will y'all help them out? I think the answer is yes. And that's what I am saying out loud every church I go to. What we need, we could use your money, you heard it, and that's great. But what we really need is your heart as a church. To wrap your arms around a family who wants to take care of 1 or 2 foster children and help them out. And we tend to, I'm going to be very plain, we tend to kind of be nice to those families, but it's none of my business. I better not ask too many questions. It's none of my business. We kind of have that kind of culture. And I'm asking you to look past that. It is the church family's business to look after each other. Right? That's how the Lord made us. Designed the church. All kinds of scriptures. I'm thinking about Ephesians 3, but all kinds of scriptures. Right? Wrap our arms around folks. Now, this reminds me of, Robin, I think you asked a question about some of your younger families are military, so it might be more transient. I'll say to kind of address that in two ways. The state requires 6 training sessions, a total of about 30 hours of training, and that's the legal requirement. We do session 7. I do session 7 so far, and again, I need to find somebody else. Session 7 is a session with our families about talking about the gospel and how foster care and their spiritual walk is a manifestation of living out the gospel where they have now become a Christian. We have that conversation. Part of our outreach is that not all of our families are in the Church of Christ. And so part of our outreach is just that, is building a relationship with our families, and I'm part of that. We require session 7 as AGAPE. And so that process we do is about 3 months. And that's our sweet spot for that process. You can get all the training legally in 2 days on a weekend. But you can imagine that's not real training. And part of our training is on our side, we're ascertaining the let's call it the conditions, the fit, and where this family is, and is it a good place for them as a family. And the family's going through that too. They're going through that process. Starting training isn't commitment to do foster care. Finishing training is. The training is a mutual decision process that we go through. About 30% of our families don't finish training, and we think that's okay. It's okay to be curious and start, but then figure out it's not the right time for me right now. It's not the right situation. That's okay. We're very graceful about it. Come back again when things are better or things are different in your life. I gave a long answer. So think about if you're in transient, 2 to 3 months of training, and then once licensure, we will try to fit a child with your situation. So if you think, well, I'm based here for a year and I've got 6 months left, then we'll think about that in terms of placement for a foster child. Did that help answer the question, Robin? Other questions? Maybe 5 minutes? Yes.
In statistics, how many foster children are returned to their biological parents?
The question is, how many foster children go back to their biological parents? Of the 70% or so that might get adopted, of the 30%, probably it's about 10. Now, it's a hard to answer simply, so it's more anecdotal, because sometimes they go back to their birth mother and then they go back to foster care. And so it's hard to know that exact statistic. And I'll use that to say one thing, that there's a myth that the children that are having to face foster care, they've probably been abused. That's a myth. Only 5% or less children who face foster care have actually been abused. There are some. But the greatest driver for foster care, you might use the word neglect, but it's driven by a complexity of poverty and bad decisions. And there's almost always an economic thing. We believe, Bailey believes, there are children neglected in rich homes, but the wealth kind of covers it, and so they don't really face a foster care need. Just to be plain. But when you're a mother, and most of the time it's a mother, and the fathers are not around, for one reason or another, they're not around, and you're a mother and you have more than one child, and you're trying to keep a job and take care of 1 or 2 children in your home and put food on the table, you can imagine that's stressful. And if you've already come from a background where you've made some not so good decisions and maybe you're in and out of drinking or in and out of other things, that just adds to the problem. And so what happens is the children don't get the attention they need or the needs they need. That's a lot of time what happens. All right, my 5 minutes probably, is there a bell or anything like that to warm me? I got 4 minutes. Thank you. Okay.
We're gonna tell him he's got 4 minutes.
He's got 4 minutes. Oh,
And we're gonna tell the other one back there 15 minutes early.
is that other one Robin?
Yeah. We had to have a watch and see the clock.
Oh, I just got the word for when I do the sermon, by the way. What else in 4 minutes? Any questions that I might tell you in 4 minutes?
I have a question. The guardianship, can that extend past 18?
Yes. No, not legally,
Not legally, okay.
but it can informally and often does. I'll give you one more statistic. I'll just use that to give you another statistic. There's a research done in a particular city that 25% of the homeless folks had been in the foster care system. 25%. Which we can kind of understand that, can't we? But just to say it is kind of startling to our hearts. There's a foster family recently that I had session 7 with. He was orphaned when the father was orphaned when he was young. He went into foster care and was in foster care until he aged out, and no family ever took him in. And he said he never really felt like he belonged anywhere. Until in around 17, a church took him in. And he got a little bit of a sense of belonging at a church despite his erratic behavior. And he had erratic behavior. But the church had patience with it and kept after him and kept connected with him. He'd come and go and he'd come and go, right? But because of that experience and one family in that church that kept up with him, he did eventually turn to the Lord and started walking in Christianity when he wasn't, when he was earlier. And now he wants to do this. He specifically has said to us, we want to take care of teenagers. We have 2 kids of our own, they're younger, but because of where I'm from, we want to take care of teenagers. Everybody listen? You have hearts for this? There's a family in the church that I spoke with just 2 weeks ago. They have 3 lovely children, all girls, 10 and under. And you look at that family and say, how in the world can they have any margin to take care of another? They got a heart for children. On Tuesday, they connected with me and said, we've been praying about this for a year. We want to look into caring for some more children because we got resources, and how can a child not have resources if we have them? What a heart, right? That's my 4 minutes, I think. Thank you all very much for having us, for your support for AGAPE. I'm trying to say that many times too. It's wonderful. And yet, I guess we'll break? All right, break.